All right, welcome into the Auburn Live show, the Modcast edition. If you're not, go to auburnlive.com, subscribe. I think we're still doing 50% off. You never know when the guys at On3 will pop up a deal. So when you see it, go take advantage, auburnlive.com, and subscribe. This is the Modcast. I'm Justin Hokanson, joined by Jeffrey Lee, Keith Niebuhr, Cole Pinkston. How's everybody doing on this Thursday morning? Everybody good?
Yep, good. Just had to work a few kinks out with good old technology, and here we are.
Do they have Wi-Fi where you live, Cole?
No, we run it through some power line. No, we have it.
I just picture one wire going from like Montgomery, all the way out there.
You got
There's a guy that
AOL.
comes here every morning to just make sure that the connection's good. He just stands outside, walks down the line 100 times. Yeah, we got it.
Yeah, it is amazing how Wi-Fi does kick in and out some places. And when I was in Iceland this summer, we never lost it. There was never a period where you couldn't get 3 or 4 bars on your phone in the middle of this country out in the middle of nowhere.
Shit, man, you can't even get that in the middle of Auburn's campus.
Listen, I can't get it in my first year, okay? It's crazy.
Great show, fellas.
Yeah, all right. We'll see you about Jeffrey, how pumped are you about the rain? I saw your tweet.
Oh, my gosh, dude. Listen, I'm not kidding. It's been dry for months.
Yeah, it's been bad.
Plural. The hurricane was coming in. What was it? Was it the Penn State weekend? No, it was the LSU weekend, dude. And it hadn't rained in so long, and I called my dad, and I was like, listen, I'm coming up there in the morning. Like, we got to get this in the ground before the rain comes in. It's because I don't know when it's going to rain again. Went up there the next day. I think I was doing hot boards on my way there, driving, doing hot boards, and got up there, got everything plowed and sowed and swept. And then the track of that storm kept going east. Not a drop, dude. And so I didn't want to jinx it, but there was an 80% chance for yesterday. And so I just shut my mouth, and here it come. And then all night long, dude, it was 2 inches. I looked this morning. It was 2 inches of rain over the last 24 hours up there. So I was pumped, very pumped.
Yeah, yesterday and then this morning, dude. It was storming. I woke up at like 4 this morning.
Me too.
It was storming like crazy.
I've been up since then, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, I normally try to overseed my grass with in the winter. I've started doing that, and so I try to plant it around rain. And so I was like,
You sow your grass?
Well, I overseed it in the winter. I'll get like a ryegrass.
No kidding.
And then I'll get rye and I'll overseed it, and so it's green in the winter.
Huh?
It's worked pretty well. So we'll.
You're that guy.
I like working in the yard. Yes.
Do you really?
Yeah, I do. I really do.
Okay. Here's the thing. We'll talk about football after this.
Yeah.
But growing up, that's what I did. Like my dad, I cut grass, make money, and trim hedges and weed eat it and all that shit. And I remember saying, when I get old, I'm going to make enough money to pay somebody else to do my job, to do my yard. And so these days I pay $100 a month, and I sit in that recliner and I drink my water and I just wave at them. Good job, fellas. Best $100 I spend every month, man. So yeah, there you go. Auburn and Ole Miss.
At some point I will. But I enjoy it, man. I really do.
Good for you, dude. A lot of people do.
I do too, man. I love it. It's my favorite time of the week is when it's time to cut grass, weed eat, all that good stuff. Love it.
Hey.
Not when it's cold though. It's got to be hot.
Oh.
That's the only thing about overseeding with rye is, it'll grow November, December, and then once it gets really cold, it'll sort of chill. It still grows a little bit, but you're going to be out there in January cutting it maybe once every 3 weeks.
80% of the green fields are rye.
Yeah. But it looks good, man. It looks good when it's green. Nice background, Keith.
Yeah, I'm messing around with some things. I mean, you guys are talking about mowing your yards here, and I live in this
man. I love it, dude.
Concrete jungle.
Yeah.
Well, I grew up on 5 acres.
Do what now?
I grew up on 5 acres, so I love mowing the lawn. We had a ride mower, and I drove it halfway up a tree once and had to jump off before it would flip over. You know what I mean? When you're a kid, you don't. Hey, I remember my dad coming out. What the hell, you damn idiot! What the,
You don't cut the part.
How do you even do that? Yeah. No, but there's nothing like. I mean, after the storm, you look out in the backyard, leaves everywhere.
Yeah.
Love it, man. All right, let's get into this. Auburn, Ole Miss, Auburn, Georgia last weekend. We can start there. We always start kind of looking back. Look, Auburn was a 30-point underdog. They lost by 32. So, I mean, as bad as it was, it's pretty much went about like you thought it would go. Any sort of lingering thoughts from that game that either surprised you or didn't surprise you, or encouraging, anything at all encouraging? Or
I mean, it could have been. It really should have been 7-3 at worst at halftime, right? You got the fake punt that set them up with the short field, and then you had the Ashford fumble late in the half. I mean, I thought Auburn was competitive for half, but again, it was the same pattern we've seen all these other games, Justin. It's competitive for half. Things start to unravel a little bit midway through the third quarter, and by midway through the fourth quarter, it's not looking good. And even in the LSU game, it was that same pattern, except it was obviously wasn't a blowout, but as it turns out, LSU's probably who we all thought LSU was. And I think Auburn's going to look back at that game and really kick themselves. That's a game they should have won. They'd be sitting at 4-2 right now. And that's a hell of a lot better than 3-3, especially with what you got coming up. Although now some of these games look fairly winnable. Things change week to week in the SEC, though.
Yeah.
I thought it was worse than I was expecting. I did. Just the eye. I mean, just the eye test. Man, that I feel so bad for Tank Bigsby, and it's bad. That offensive line's bad.
Did Georgia even play that well? Honestly,
no. If they did,
running the ball, one of their better games.
Running the football.
They got it going there.
That's about it, really. I mean,
but it's hard to tell when you're playing Auburn. Georgia's really good. Right. I mean, I think they're probably happy compared to how they played against Missouri, but when Auburn, is fumbling the ball all over the field.
That was going to be my point, Justin. I come to somewhat of a conclusion to see that you don't have to have your best game against Auburn at all to beat them like Georgia just beat them, because, man, they are so inept on some of the fundamentals it takes to just play offensive football. I mean, it's unlike anything I expected at all. I thought it was going to be fundamentally sound. Talent was not going to be there maybe, but fundamentals were going to be good. It's the opposite to me. I'm not saying that they're overly talented, but then I really do. I think there's more talent on the offense than what they are showing at times. That's what's really disappointing to me.
The lack of ability to just get in somebody's way. Like, there were way too many instances where offensive linemen completely whiffed. I mean, they didn't touch anyone. Guys went right. Was it Nolan Smith who went untouched into the backfield, and I think dropped Tank or somebody for a tackle for loss? And Keith, I think you posted multiple instances on the corner of guys just standing there while the defender runs. They're looking this way, and the guy's running right past them.
Yeah.
And Cole, I think you explained it to Keith like he was a third grader, whatever his request was, and you were talking about the slide protection. And I don't listen to Cole Kublik, but I did see somebody post on the corner about what he said, and I think it was basically getting somebody's way. I mean, that's the gist of, or somebody said that. Maybe it was you, Cole. I mean, the basic principle of being an offensive lineman is to get in somebody's way, not to let them get to where they want to go. And they couldn't even do that. It was embarrassing.
Jeff, why has this mostly experienced offensive line regressed? Now, nobody thought they were going to be great, right? Justin, Cole, I mean, nobody thought they were going to be great, but you thought, okay, they were
no, definitely not.
8th to 10th best in the SEC last year, but everybody essentially coming back, almost everybody.
I thought they would be average.
Yeah, could they be a top 6 or 7 line in the league. You think, okay, well, maybe that's realistic. Other people got guys coming and going. They got all these guys back. And are they even a top 10 O-line in the SEC?
No.
I mean, are they the worst O-line?
I haven't seen Vanderbilt's line, and they can't be worse than Auburn's.
Yeah.
They can't be. There's no way. Do you know what? Do you know what? Tank Bigsby once again this week. We'll get to this. His projected rushing total in the 50s. He's one of the best backs in the SEC, and his projected rushing total is 54, 54 and a half. How many did he have last week? 20 freaking yards on 19 carries or whatever. I don't know what it was. It was unbelievable.
19 yards on 10 carries.
We're talking about a guy that's played 2.5 years behind it.
The SEC Freshman of the Year.
Yeah. But 2.5 years on this at Auburn behind an offensive lines that were average and now below average. His career long run. You're talking about a guy that's, like you said, Jeffrey, one of the better guys in the SEC. Maybe is he one of the top 10 backs in Auburn history? Is he that kind of a talent? I don't know. Y'all would know more than me.
No.
His career long run is 51 yards. Now, that's shocking. That's a hell of a run, 51 yards, by the way. But you think that Tank Bigsby would have 8 of those. Meanwhile, again, I hate, somebody posted on the board, Bo Nix had an 80-yard run last week. Now, competition's a lot different. I get that. He didn't have any 80-yard runs against Georgia, by the way, when they played. But, but 51 yards for a guy with his ability is actually a little shocking, to be honest with you. I just assumed that he was going to break one of these weeks, but there's just nowhere to run right now.
He's getting hit when he gets the ball. It's very frustrating to watch.
I saw some frustration, I think, on him last week. There was a pass. Auburn was inside its own 15 going the long way. And there was a pass that hit the ground and he couldn't get it, and he wouldn't have gone anywhere anyway. But it looked like he kind of just threw the ball into the ground.
I remember that.
And it's got to be eating him up. I mean, look, it's a team thing. It's not all about him. But if the team's doing well, then he's doing well. The team's not doing well, and obviously he's not doing well. So
it's
I try to use my own experiences sometimes to try to maybe help myself understand and help anybody else understand what might be going on with the missed assignments on the offensive line. I played offensive line in high school. When I was in 9th grade, I got thrust into the right guard spot on our varsity team because of injuries, and I did not know what to do. I was doing the exact same thing they were doing, where guys were running by me because I thought I was doing the right thing in the assignment. Finally, our center, who was a senior that year, he said, "Hey, man, just hit the guy in front of you. It can't get any worse. Just hit him. It may not be the right assignment, but you'll at least stop him from coming through." I started doing that. Things got a lot better. And then they said, "All right, we're gonna make the scheme a little bit easier for you since you don't know what's going on.
We're going to dumb it down for you."
That's what I wrote in this morning in how Auburn's offense should attack Ole Miss's defense. You just at some point you have to either make them understand the schemes and see it live in practice, or go, "Hey, we can't do that anymore. You're going to get somebody killed doing that. We can't do it anymore. Let's do this."
Two thoughts. One, do you have any huddle film from 9th grade, Cole? We'd love to see this.
I'm trying not to let it surface.
You tried to scrub Google.
Dude.
But wasn't this supposed to be – and look, I mean, it is what it is, right? So I'm not being overly critical, but weren't these guys – the running game is their thing, right? Right? There's supposed to be a power running, right? I mean,
play action, yeah. I thought, or at least we thought, right?
Yeah.
That's the hope. I mean, that was their hope. I don't know that anybody, thought that it was going to transpire necessarily. The offensive line's it's been worse. Nobody thought it was going to be great. But I think the common consensus was, hey, most guys are coming back. Tayshawn Manning left, went to Kentucky. Berdarius Ham left. But everybody else comes back. Second year of an offensive line coach. Just logic would say a little better than last year. Like just a little bit better, a little bit more used to the scheme. Killian Zaire is a guy that was coming on and doing well. You heard good things about Cam Stutz. and Brahms being out hurts. Like, I do think we sort of need to make sure and mention that every time. It doesn't hurt to the degree that some of the things we're seeing, but it hurts. But it's the things against Georgia, what you can't explain are the whiffs. Some of the clips that were going around of Alec Jackson, Keandre Jones, I'm talking about like
coffee.
Atrocious is not even a good enough word for some of the stuff. Coffee, yeah. That's straight up coaching. I mean, that is straight up coaching. And I thought about asking Brian Harsin this, but the thing about asking Brian Harsin questions these days is it's like, what's the point really? Honestly, and it's not just because of that he's going to be gone. It's because he gives answers. There was a time where I kind of liked some of his answers. I sort of like somebody who's introspective and tries to give kind of a big picture message. Sometimes I like that, but it's gotten to the point where he's just basically filibustering and asking him any kind of critical question. You're going to get kind of a word salad answer that you're going to be like, okay, well, you talked for 2 minutes, but I don't know that I learned anything at all. But I want to be like, no, let's say like last year, 4 games into the year, you fired your receivers coach. 4 games into the season of your first season. I mean, that's a pretty drastic move. 4 games into the season to fire an assistant coach. And here we are this year. And if the offensive line, I mean, how are you not looking at that going, well, I mean, I fired my receivers coach 4 games in last year. Is the offensive line coach, like, have I thought about making a change there? I mean, at what point do you just keep doing the same stuff? It's like, I wanted to ask him, like, you've done it once. Have you thought about it again?
I think that's apples and oranges, though. I don't think Corn was fired for his on the field.
Well, I sort of know that. I mean, yes. It's more of just – that would also be more of a point of how stupid it was to fire Corn, but that's another subject.
Hey, he got an offensive coordinator out of it.
Yeah.
He did. His Eric Kiesel got promoted real quick up the chain, didn't he? Yeah, I don't know. It's more of an indictment on Will Friend. Like, dude, I mean, how do you explain what you're seeing out there when you see that clip of Alec Jackson? Literally, the guy just runs right by him, like just goes right by him. And Alec Jackson's just like looking this way, and when you see that one play, I don't have to see that 10 times. When you see that thing happen, how in the hell do you explain that? How do you not walk into Will Friend's office and go, what are you doing?
I'm not going to defend that, Justin, but I will say that there are other people on the staff that work with the offensive line with him. You also have an offensive coordinator. You also have a head coach that's an offensive mind. So I think obviously position coach is a position coach, but they have a situation over there where there's multiple people involved with what they do on the offensive line, including the head coach, quite frankly. So
Oh, you mean like blocking schemes and stuff?
Everything. He's an offensive guy. He's an offensive head coach. So ultimately, the things that happen on offense really hands-on. Well, I've actually heard he lets the position coaches do their thing. He's actually, people have said he's pretty good to work for. He kind of lets you do their own thing. That said, I'm sure he's still heavily involved. And you've got analysts. You've got other people that are involved and figure out what's wrong.
So it sounds like you're defending Will Friend.
No, I'm saying, but I think there's blame to go around to more than just one person.
Yes, but the majority goes to the position coach. There's no doubt about that.
And I'm not defending either, but I want to add this, and then I'll drop it after that. Going back to the 2020 Auburn Georgia game that Jeffrey calls one of the worst beatdowns ever, and I agree, even though the score doesn't as much say that. The reason it was one of the worst beatdowns ever, and I agree with Jeffrey on that, is because of the exact same thing that happened in this game. Guys were running through just wide open gaps and not being touched. There's something that Georgia does that for some reason confuses Auburn's offensive line scheme so bad. They shift right before the snap on defensive line that changes the technique of each defensive lineman, and then, oh my gosh, it's a jailbreak. And I mean, I don't know how you explain that on the college level. A simple shift shouldn't change it that much. But for 2 years now, they've done that.
Everyone. It's not like it's something that they just
Yeah, they
put
just
in the Auburn game.
Yeah, it's pre-snap. It's pre-snap. If you go and you watch the film, you can see pre-snap. They just do a subtle little move, and then all of a sudden, Auburn's offensive line is going crazy. Oh my gosh, who's my guy? Who do I have? I've never seen it on the college level, and I've seen it twice in Auburn, Georgia games. Okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
Just to know that your rival didn't really play its best, and at the end of the game, you're looking up and you lost by 32. That's really disheartening.
Yeah.
Shouldn't. Now, look, there's always that fluke game where one team plays great, the other team plays horribly. Those happen. But I didn't think Georgia ran the ball effectively in the second half when Auburn's defense, I think, kind of lost its edge a little bit because I think they knew that no matter what they did, it wasn't going to be enough. It wasn't going to matter. But until that point, I thought the defense played good enough to have Auburn in the game all the way to the fourth quarter. And again, to lose by 32 when you had a defensive effort that for 2.5 quarters was pretty damn good is concerning. I mean, it's, something, this second half stuff is just, it's incredible, really. It's week after week after week after week.
It's incredible is a good word for it. Like, it's unexplainable at this point. We're not 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games. I've lost track. I was keeping track. I think we're 8 Power 5 games plus the Houston game. We're talking about like we're closing in on a season of football of just absolute night and day first and second half performances, specifically from the offense. A couple times from the defense, but mainly this is an offensive issue.
An offense,
mind blowing.
An offense with very little identity, no identity really,
none,
no ability to sustain drives throughout the game. Look, there's always going to be you're going to have to punt a few times a game, even if you're doing well, probably. But there's no real faith that this team could put together drives in all 4 quarters of a game. And it'll happen one of these days. But now, sorry, Jeff, and now the team's psyche. What is it right now? Is it starting to set in? Yeah, they thought that they could be really good. We heard it all summer long, and now they're probably a lot of these kids are probably starting to realize we ain't that great. Now, we could still beat some of these teams, but we ain't that great. And
who though?
You lose a little bit of your edge on the field once that sets in. There's a mental element here too.
You even said earlier, Keith, that there's some winnable games on this schedule. Not in the SEC.
You don't think so? You don't think Arkansas?
Maybe
No.
Arkansas.
Bad quarterback play. I mean, they're sort of imploding.
Okay, I haven't seen Arkansas without Jefferson, so
that's the key. Without Jefferson, if Jefferson's there, they're still a more physical football team than Auburn. Far more physical team.
Well, Auburn's getting thin on the D line too, and maybe on the O line. That's another concern. We knew that was going to be an issue coming in. They had to stay healthy, and they've lost.
As bad as A&M's offense has been, their defense hasn't been bad. Their defense will come in here and hold Auburn to 13 points, or 10 points. I mean, Auburn won't do much against them either.
Auburn's identity on offense so far, or at least the most success they've had, is broken plays, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ashford
last
scrambles.
few games, yeah, it's gotten to that.
And that's
point.
not sustainable.
Yeah, clearly, and it's gotten to that point where it's broken plays because Robbie's just not ready. He's not ready. He's not. Is TJ? You can say
right.
TJ was a little bit further along in terms of being able to operate it. Robbie's not quite there. His accuracy's not there, and so his athleticism is there, and so it just lends itself to broken plays. You're going to have more of that, and Ashford's going to scramble more, and that's going to be your best shot. I think I saw where he had 9 or 10 throwaways against Georgia, just straight up. I'm out of the pocket. Nobody's open. I can't run. I have no choice but to launch the ball into the sideline. I mean, you're talking about 1 out of 4 of his pass attempts. He just had to just chunk it.
And what was his completion percentage? Was like
13 to 38.
48, something like that.
13 to 38.
I added the stat in my write-up this morning. Auburn's completion percentage as a team is ranked 122nd in college football. Yeah. I think it's 52 or 51, something like that.
And listen, that's why I'm absolutely floored that Ole Miss is only a 15-point favorite, according to Zach in the back.
They haven't played anybody. I think that's the big thing. They've played one good team, and people think.
Oh, really?
people in Kentucky, they won, but I think anybody that watched that game thinks Kentucky. I never want to say a team should have won or should. Well, Missouri should have beat Auburn, but they didn't play great against Kentucky. I think
Kentucky turned the ball over. I think their last 3 possessions, all in Ole Miss territory. I mean, they just really screwed that game up.
Yeah,
is that Kentucky's only loss?
No, they just lost last week.
That's what I thought. That's what I thought.
He's hurt. So.
Yeah,
but again, speaking of Kentucky, how do they have a much better offensive line than Auburn?
They got Tayshawn.
That's right. They become the offensive line school. Now, apparently at Auburn, Manning had trouble really learning the plays and getting all that down. And so, you don't bemoan that. Look, I mean, it is what it is. But now that he's starting at Kentucky, you're thinking, okay, well, geez, that's a guy you could have used,
And the reality is about this offensive line, I do put some of this has got to be put on the previous staff, right? Like recruiting-wise. I mean, we're only a year and a half in. This isn't – the coaching stuff is a Will Friend and a Brian Harsin issue. But if you think the talent's not there, part of that goes back, right? I mean,
the part of it, yes, but the majority, no. The majority lies in the whiffs in the transfer portal. How do you not have 3 to 4 guys coming in this year from the transfer portal? And I understand that NIL wasn't there, and that was a big, big part of the transfer portal.
Yeah. Speaking of which, probably the worst matchup for Auburn in this game against Ole Miss is how many players they actually play on both sides of the ball. I mean, Ole Miss plays like almost 40 guys on the defensive side of the ball, and a lot of them are transfer portal guys. I mean, they got 13 guys that have 2 of them, and they're both good, by the way, over there, have been so far. And they have 13 guys that have LT and JJ Pegues. 13 guys credited with a sack. I mean, it's crazy. They got all kinds of players just rolling in and out. So they're going to be fresh in the fourth quarter, and that's, again, second half.
So on the transfer portal, I have a question. So was that more – because what we heard a little bit of – by the way, Mason Brooks is not even starting at Ole Miss. Is that right? The guy that they whiffed on? That's a bummer.
He's not.
So when they missed on some of those guys – generally transfer guys NIL, and then they also want to start or have at least feel like there's a really good chance that they can start immediately. The fact that Auburn was bringing everybody back, was that a huge detriment in recruiting these guys? Is that something where the staff should have made better evaluation of talent? Like, yeah, everybody's coming back, but they're not as good as maybe we should tell some of these transfer linemen, look, you're better than who's coming back. I mean, how could they have attracted these guys and landed them instead? It kind of felt like they just sort of settled on the guys are coming back, 6-year guys, Troxel or whoever, and since they're coming back, that's who it's going to be. And if it means we don't get a transfer guy, so be it. And it felt kind of passive in how they went. Like they felt like, well, we'll get some, but if we don't, we got a bunch of guys coming back, and that's fine too. Is that fair or unfair?
Well,
am I misreading that?
Jeffrey, you want to go? Or,
I'm not.
I got some input.
I'm not necessarily saying that I disagree with this method, but probably the worst thing to tell a guy in the transfer portal who is looking for a place to play immediately is, hey, you got to come earn your spot. Hey, it's not guaranteed. I mean, again, I kind of agree with that method, but it's not the greatest pitch to a guy that wants to play.
There's some chicken in
that was
what came first, the chicken or the egg here. So we know that they have a bunch of guys back. But we also know that, and Jeffrey remembers and Cole remembers, they were recruiting guys in the portal. Miles Frazier from FIU. There were some guys they were recruiting. And then there was that announcement that Troxel and Brahms were coming back for that extra year. But I think, now, people at Auburn may disagree, but we know some people too. Did they push for those guys to come back after they knew they weren't already getting some guys in the portal? So what came first? We don't really know. I know what Auburn would say because you're always looking out for yourself here. But I think they did. We know that they recruited some guys. But one other thing, Justin, there weren't a ton of offensive linemen that entered the portal to begin with this past year. There weren't as many as I think people were. Jeffrey, remember that? There weren't as many as people thought. Now, maybe you need to do what Lane Kiffin does and wear a shirt that says, come to the SIP or maybe advertise it a little more. You're looking for guys. I don't know, but one, there weren't that many guys that came out. Two, they did recruit some guys, and then three, Troxel and Brahms, and it was announced that they were coming back. And maybe they don't come back if Auburn lands a couple of these guys. Auburn really kind of, from what I was told, was kind of like, okay, if they come back, great. If not, that's okay too. And then all of a sudden, it was like, we want you to come back.
Serious question: where were they going?
Oh, just done. Just
life. Yeah. Okay. Retire.
Nick would have tried. Probably would have tried to at least try to undrafted free agent or tried something.
Okay.
I do know that when Nick announced he was coming back, that there, I had a couple colleges ask me, do you think would he be open to going to other schools? Because they can't talk to him. I'm like, I don't know. I don't think so. I think he was only coming back to go to Auburn. I mean, his fiance's at Auburn, that thing. But I think they would have just been done with football. I mean, I feel bad for Troxel because this is a guy who knows how good he could have been if he wouldn't have had 3 ACL tears, over the last 6-7 years.
Is he out with an upper body injury? Is that what they said last week?
Who, Troxel?
Yeah. Or did he
I don't know
play?
why he something happened in that Georgia game. I don't know the specificity of it. Coffee came in.
He started but didn't finish, right?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and look. They talked about it on the telecast. Him and Alec Jackson both went out.
If you're Auburn, would you advertise? Would you call up? You have people call up us and say, "Hey, can y'all write a story saying that they need people in the portal on the offense?" I mean, would you want it out there because you can't really contact people? You've got to wait. You've got to. Now, there people can third parties, and people always know when guys are transferring.
Keith, are you asking what this staff would do? Do you want us to predict you want us to predict what these guys are going to do, or what they should do?
I mean, because they're back at the same problem as they've had the last couple of years, except for they're going to need even more guys in the portal this year. So we're not doing it, Keith. We're not doing that this morning. We are not talking about what the offensive line is going to look like next year. I can't do it. I cannot do it. I can't do it, man. We have to do that one. We have to prepare ourselves for that one. Have everybody sitting down.
I would like to believe that the majority of the starting offensive linemen is not on the roster right now. Maybe the 2 deep. The majority of the 2 deep. So that's the first 10 guys on the depth chart are not. At least 6 of them are not on the roster right now.
But it's crazy. You're right, Justin. It's crazy how it got to this point. It was a confluence of mistakes, misevaluations, not signing enough guys, whiffing in the transfer portal,
injuries,
guys getting injured, guys not panning out, guys transferring. I mean, it was the perfect storm of crap, basically, right? All the bad things that could happen happened, and that's what you got. You got a mediocre offensive line. Now, these guys are trying hard, but a lot of guys are hurt out there.
Yeah, and that's where it is. I mean, look, if quarterback, I mean, I think most people thought, I certainly did, I thought everything would depend on the quarterback offensively. And at this point, I think it's the offensive line is the bigger problem. I mean, I think you could put Ashford or TJ. If you had a better offensive line, there's some things that the quarterbacks have done well at times that if you had a better offensive line, the offense would be in much better position. I thought it would come down to quarterback, but it's really come down to the offensive line. And at this point, they're not going to get better. I mean, in the season, you're just going to have to figure out, I don't know, how to manufacture some points. I don't know, put in some more zone read stuff. I don't know why that stuff can't be in there. You already have, we seen Robbie Ashford run a zone read, even where it's a called hold or a called handoff, since early in the season. It's just gone since he's become the starter. We don't even see it. And I'm not saying you should tell him to go out there and read the defensive end if you don't think he's ready to read it. Tell him what to do for all I care, but at least do something where teams have to watch the quarterback and wonder if he's going to pull it. I mean, my gosh. Makes no sense.
There was talk in the spring. So there was talk, and the last thing I'll say on the O-line, but remember, guys, it wasn't that long ago. There was a narrative out there that they were going to maybe be the strength of the team. The strength of the team.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Just because of experience, right?
That makes you question. Well, I'm saying that makes you question some internal evaluations, quite frankly.
Yeah, yeah.
Unless they were just saying that boost the guys. Sometimes you play mind games too. You're trying to get your guys to rise up a little bit. I don't know.
Look, I could go back and find. I remember conversations we had, or the conversation we had with Wilfred. We talked to the assistants before the season, and I remember Wilfred talking about them, hey, second year in the system, it's a different story. These guys they're not thinking about all the little stuff. They know what to do, and so they're able to. They're just better players at this point, and you heard all that stuff, and it's literally gone. Yeah, we heard a bunch of stuff about how much stronger they were from Wilfred and other coaches. Like, these dudes got in the weight room in the summer. They look better. They're in better shape. I mean, that's what Wilfred was saying. They're stronger. They're in better shape. Short yardage has been better. I'm reading the quotes from August 10th. Like, just complete what turns out to be just nonsense.
We're all speechless.
Yeah, I said I was done earlier. I think I'm done. I can't.
I'm move over, Cole. I'm getting in that boat too.
I don't know what else to say about it.
Frustrating. It's frustrating. So anything else stand out from that game? I mean, yeah, I thought 2.5 quarters defense played well. I think one of the things that came out of that game that's now been 3 games in a row is the defense is just getting run on. And it goes – and I remember talking about in the offseason the linebackers, how I was a little concerned about them. Just didn't know what to think. I mean, after Cam Riley's first game, 13 tackles, I haven't heard his name. I mean, I think he's got 20 tackles since the first game of 13. I mean, seriously. So I'm a little disappointed in their ability to stop the run. I mean, that's 3 games really where teams have had success. And Georgia was running the ball all game. Auburn only held in there because they held them on 3rd down. And they were getting off the field. But Georgia was having success running the football basically from the very beginning. That's been a little disappointing, I think.
I think they averaged almost a first down every time they touched the ball. Every time they rushed the ball.
Yeah,
their average rush was 7 or 8 yards.
Oh yeah. Even if you take away Bennett's 64-yard run, it still was. They still rushed for like 240, 230. So that's probably been one of the more disappointing things as well to see. Secondary's been good. Secondary's getting better.
Very good.
Pretty good 3-game stretch from those guys. It's really I said in a story this week. It's the only position group that I could point to for any type of improvement, or just at minimum they haven't gone backwards, is the secondary. DJ James looks a little bit better. Keandre Scott looks a little bit better. It's the only group that seems to have shown some improvement.
And Justin, they've got a little depth too, right?
Yeah,
well, more than most positions on the team.
Yeah, if everybody stays healthy. Yeah, I mean, 3-4 quick corners and
that's what I was going to say. Is I recruited the best in high school and portal. You got a guy that was pretty much a starter at Oregon in DJ James. You got a guy from JUCO that was killing it, and a young guy in JD Rim who's been getting a couple reps here lately. And they recruited it appropriately.
Yeah,
you can't really say that from any other.
You're right. You're exactly right. And Donovan Kaufman, I think, is he's a guy we heard about in the offseason. We knew he was going to be valuable, but he's been really good. I mean, he's moved into that safety position. I think Caden Bridges wasn't quite what they thought, hoped, and so they kind of had to shift. I think Scott stepping up allowed them to move Kaufman to safety and move Scott to nickel, which I think has helped. Bridges, I think, was struggling a little bit at safety, but Kaufman, man, he's been really, really good. I mean, his instincts. Him and Scott are. I don't know where Kaufman will end up because I don't know what his top end speed is, but I like everything about him. And Scott is a freaking good Lord. That kid's good.
I had somebody go to see one of the scrimmages in this fall, and they said, "Man, Keontae Scott looks like a first-round pick."
He's so athletic.
Yeah, I think that's the guy. Now, hopefully they can keep him back and get him to come back next year. I'm not suggesting he wouldn't, but you just never know. But that guy looks like a guy that's going to be playing in the NFL, doesn't it? I mean, he just looks different in pads too. He just looks,
Oh yeah, you can see it. You watching a football, you're like, okay, that dude's a player. How he moves and everything.
I made the comment. I think it was the LSU game. Keontae Scott was playing nickel, and couple of the sets, whatever LSU was getting in, it required him to step into the box at linebacker level. And I thought he played linebacker better than any of the linebackers on the team. I thought he collisioned an offensive lineman. He made a play. He threw somebody out of the way. I mean, to me, he was the best linebacker on the team, and he's not a linebacker.
He'd kill it under Tuberville. He'd kill it.
Oh, gosh, yeah. No doubt.
He'd be an unbelievable outside linebacker. All right, before we talk about Auburn Ole Miss, I see that sweet pullover Jeffrey's got on.
Oh, we're going to talk about Auburn Ole Miss. And here's why. They've got some great projections this week. Prize Picks, baby. It's another week, another time. And listen, there's a big promo going on right now with Prize Picks. In addition to matching your first deposit 100% up to $100, use the promo code War Eagle, all caps, one word. Go download the app. Use the promo code War Eagle Auburn. They're giving it so you can make 2 to 5 entries, right? And the fewer entries you make is going to pay less than the 5. The odds are going to be better for you going for 5, or at least the odds to win. But this week, dude, they've got a special with the NBA starting next week. They're going to give you one square. They're going to give you basically one. You take Steph Curry over a half a point, so you're basically giving you one. Now you've only got a 50-50 shot at getting the second one and doubling your money. So go to Prize Picks, check it out. Daily sports fantasy is across all boards, all different sports. They're going to give you Steph Curry. So all you got to do is come up with one winner this week to win your two square match. Okay, so the Prize Picks this week are for Auburn, Robbie Ashford. Zach's got him right here. 167.5 passing yards. You've got Tank Bigsby at 54.5 rushing yards. Zach Evans at 86.5 rushing yards. Javarius Johnson, 49.5 receiving yards. So basically, you take Steph Curry over half a point, scoring his first game, and then pick one of those and go more or less and hit it. Boom, doubled your money. Prize Picks, baby. Prize Picks. Daily sports fantasy. I love it. So let's hit it up. Let's discuss. We'll discuss Auburn's 3 offensive threats here in this game, which are, and I really don't, man. Who knows, dude? Robbie Ashford, 44.5 rushing yards.
Wait, Robbie Ashford, 44.5 rushing yards, or Tank?
Mm-hmm. Robbie.
Oh. Yeah, I don't know. I'd go under that. I like the over on the – I like the more than 167 passing yards.
Me too.
But I would go less than 44. That's what I'm saying. Like, Robbie, as athletic as he is, they're not using him running the football so far. He's escaping pressure, but they're not running quarterback draws. They're not. I don't know. He's a little slender. I don't want to get him beat up. They can't afford to lose another quarterback. But I would go less than 44.
What about Tank? 54.5 rushing yards.
Less.
I mean, what are you basing this on other than guessing, right? You don't know if Tank's going to go off for 120, break a couple of long runs, or what, or get stuffed like we would expect. It's hard to predict, any success for any offensive player. We just haven't seen much of it. Not on purpose. I mean, we saw Robbie Ashford throw for almost 400 yards against LSU, but it wasn't on purpose.
Would you believe? By the way, that Robbie Ashford is averaging 147 yards per game passing, even though he had that 300 and something yard game?
Ooh.
But what they're taking into account? I mean, he's played every game though. They take it into account. Every game he's thrown a pass.
Yeah.
I mean, they're taking into account Mercer, San Jose State, Penn State when he was, his average over the last 3 would be a little different. I don't know what did he end up throwing for against
Georgia?
Missouri was in the hundreds, right? It was the hundreds and then 300 something against LSU and then back in the hundreds.
Yep.
Against Georgia.
So it'd be higher if you counted those 3. Yeah.
Here's another projection. Javarius Johnson, 3 receptions. His receiving total, I think, is 49.5 receiving yards, but 3 receptions. And I just don't – again, I don't know. I don't know what to base it on.
Did he have
I don't-
one last week? Just one?
Um,
Gosh,
I
I
don't
mean,
know.
that was my biggest point of emphasis. You got to get him the ball. There should be plays designed to get him the ball.
And
would
you think
so,
back
Cole.
to
You would think so.
you'd think back to LSU where Coy Moore had, I think, 8 receptions. That was the first and last time basically we'd heard his name, in a substance in a game plan. It was like they were forcing Corey Moore down LSU's throat.
Yeah, they kind of were.
And
Johnson, he had one grab last week, and it was the third down. Robbie Ashford scrambling and throws the ball and finds Javaris Johnson. So like
Yep.
it wasn't even they found him, yeah. But that's the thing. Like he'll have no catches and he'll come back and whatever. Like talking about it makes me. I mean, he's one of the best in yards per catch, and yeah, why you don't have bubble screens to him, quick slants to him. Why you're not just trying to get the ball in space is beyond me.
Took a bubble screen to the house against Mississippi State last year for 57 yards or 60 something, whatever it was.
those bubble screens work 1 out of 100 times, don't they?
Well, they also use their best trick play of the season in week 1.
Yeah,
Hey, that's a good one. We might have to do a podcast just in remembrance of that trick play.
I thought it was going to be. I thought it would be a fixture of the offense.
Oh, it should be. No reason why it shouldn't be. It worked. Try it again.
So there's you some numbers from Prize Picks, man. Go get signed up. Use the promo code War Eagle, all caps, one word. You got several selections there for Auburn. Just get one in addition to your Steph Curry free square from Prize Picks, and you can double your money in an instant. 100% guaranteed. 100% match from Prize Picks on your first deposit up to $100. Go check it out. We'll look it over again next week. Appreciate them supporting the show.
Absolutely.
Nice.
I'm still using my match, Jeffrey, that they gave me.
Oh yeah.
I'm still in it, even though I lost last week. I won my first week, lost my last week because of the quarterback at Kansas got hurt. That killed me. See, you have to count for injuries too.
Yep.
That's a bummer.
Okay. So Ole Miss minus 15. Zach said over and under was 55.5. I feel like I've got honors this week because I was 42-10 last week, 41-10 last week.
Wow.
Wow. I was off.
What'd you predict?
Congratulations.
Thank you, Keith. I predicted they were going to miss an extra point, and they didn't. It was 42-10. I predicted 41-10.
Oh, man.
Ooh, that's close. What was I? What was I at? What was everybody at? I can never.
Let's see.
Well, I had it close. I had it 30.
Justin had it 31-10. You had Auburn. You were off by 11.
10. Yeah, off by 11.
41-10. Cole had 28-7. Keith had 31-13, and Zach had 52-13. He wasn't that far off.
It felt like it.
No, he wasn't.
Zach in the back coming to the front. This week I got 38-17, and I have no idea why. Look, Keith, was you going to pick?
No, that's you don't have much faith in Auburn right now, do you?
I have zero faith in Auburn. No, I don't. Why? Why should I?
Well, my thing is with Ole Miss, they haven't played anybody other than Kentucky, so I'm trying to figure them out too right now. I guess we know what Auburn is though.
I don't know.
By the way, real quick, while you're thinking about it, because you mentioned Tank, I just wanted to point this out. He had 140 on Ole Miss last year. It was the second best game. He had 23 carries for 140 yards, and he had So I mean, he had a really good game against them last year, but I don't know. It's hard to imagine he gets it going this time the way the offensive line's playing. But he did something right a year ago.
I'm going to go 30.
Auburn did something right.
I'm going to go like 33-23. 33-23, Jeffrey. I think Auburn's going to – I think they'll hit some plays here or there because Ole Miss gambles a lot and all that stuff, but probably end up having to kick a bunch of field goals.
attempt a bunch of field goals.
Yeah, and then Ole Miss will score in the second half. I mean, it'll be a lot of the same things that we've seen.
I completely agree. It'll probably be a damn good game, a one-score possession at halftime. I mean, a one-score game.
Once again, I am the odd man out here because I'm going totally the other direction. I got 52-20. That's my score prediction.
Good.
Auburn.
You think Auburn's going to score that 52 points, Cole?
Yeah, Auburn. Yeah.
Wait, are you just like throwing in the towel or what? I mean, you honestly think they're going to score 52 points?
I do. I think they're one of the best rushing teams in the country, which people don't look at Lane Kiffin's team and say that, but they are. They got two of the best backs in the country, and their offensive line is good. I watched a lot of their film when I was doing the scouting reports, and I mean, what they've done in the transfer portal and some of these guys they got, and Jackson Dart's pretty good. I think they'll get away at the end. I think it'll be somewhat close at halftime, but a big turnaround in the second half, which shouldn't be too outlandish to say, I don't think.
Well, look, we don't know. Derek Hall was banged up. Looks he'll play, but he's a little banged up. Not sure the extent there. And then of course you have no Echo. And those linebackers, Steiner had a lot of tackles, but he also got pushed around. You're right. Ole Miss runs the football, and people think about sort of like the way they would look at Gus. When Gus was good, they ran the ball. Wasn't about all the other stuff. I mean, that was great, but they ran the football, and that's what's happening with Ole Miss right now. Judkins is going to be fired up.
He's one of the – oh, gosh, yeah, no doubt. He's one of the best at just playing to the personnel that he has. I mean, you see so many coaches that stick to what they do no matter what their personnel is. Lane Kiffin plays to his personnel. He's very good at that. Give him credit there.
Hot take here.
Yeah, we need Justin Score too.
Damari Alston would have as much or more success than Quinshon Judkins is having if Damari Alston was at Ole Miss right now.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Okay.
Roll with that. Yeah.
All right, Justin.
Doing a better job. First of all, we've seen this stat before, but it kind of blows my mind. And I think it's worth mentioning. Auburn's lost in Oxford 3 times ever. 3 times. The 3 times, 1992, they fired the coach. 2008, Auburn fired the coach. 2012, Auburn fired the coach. That's it. It's the only 3 times Auburn's ever lost in Oxford, and at the end of those seasons, Auburn had a coaching change.
Huh.
And here we are.
So that's the –
hey, there's no use in bringing Pat Dye into this.
I mean, it's a pretty wild stat. It's also kind of if you're Ole Miss, you're like, really? For Auburn, it's like, all right, we lost in Oxford. That's the last.
Hey, yeah, you can do a lot of things, but we will not be losing to Ole Miss at Ole Miss.
Yeah, you lose that game, okay, you're fired. That's just an insane
That's it.
stat.
Done.
Wow.
Well, how many have they won there? Because obviously it's not a historic rival. But
I have to count. I mean, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I mean, they've played in Oxford since basically they started playing there regularly since basically '92. It's been every other year. They've only lost there 3 times, so they're probably like 12-3 or something like that, 10-3.
all right.
Something like that.
Why was Auburn only playing there since '92?
Every year.
Every other year. Before that, it was Jackson. It was mixing.
That's right. There you go. That's right.
It was okay.
Yeah, and then they played in Memphis a couple times, Montgomery a couple times, but yeah, there's a few games.
I didn't know if it was a historic rival or not. Because sometimes the SEC's got these weird,
Ole Miss has always been in the SEC, right?
Yeah, but I mean, sometimes though that like Kentucky would play LSU every year, but wouldn't play Mississippi State every. Those
right. You're right.
Used to, and then in the in the 60s and 70s, some teams would play 8 conference games and others would play 6 in the same season. So it was always kind of haphazard like that.
Yeah, they only played 16 times before 1992.
My cousin Greg was the tight end for Ole Miss under Billy Ray Dunn. What's his name?
Billy Ray Dunn.
Billy Brewer. That was it. Yeah.
Billy Ray.
You think it's Joe Lee Dunn?
No, it was Billy Brewer. It was back in the early 80s or mid 80s. What did I say?
Billy Ray Dunn, I think.
Yeah,
Billy Ray Cyrus.
that guy.
I think they had. Well, actually, no. Billy Brewer was fairly successful there.
Yeah, they were competitive. They all went. They had a big big class from Irwin back in the mid '80s that all signed with Ole Miss, I believe, including the quarterback. I believe signed with Auburn. Irwin, I don't think exists anymore. But Justin, did you come up with your final score prediction?
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna go probably. I think it could look similar, honestly, to that 2012 game. Ole Miss won that game 41-20. So maybe this is 37-21. Let's say 37-21. I think it's going to be competitive into the third quarter. I think Auburn might find some big plays. I mean, offensively, but yeah, I think that running game of Ole Miss is a big problem, and the turnovers have been a big problem. And you're just asking Auburn to go out there and do things that they have reversed a trend that's been happening for 8 or 9 games in a row.
My fear would be for Auburn. What if one of these teams they play gets off to a good start? What if it's 13-0 Ole Miss in the first quarter?
That's kind of what I fear.
Yeah, I mean, that's one thing we haven't seen yet. Auburn has been very competitive in the first halves. No
Defense has.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, as soon as that defense starts to give, the damn. I mean, they're the only thing holding this thing together in these games. In the LSU game not being worse, Penn State not being worse, not straight up losing to Missouri. Like, they're the only thing holding it together at this point.
For the record, I think Ole Miss's defense is pretty good too. They have one of the best pass rushes in college football.
Yeah, they're playing well.
Zach in the back's got a pretty close game at 27-17. So he's got Auburn covering in the under. 27-17. Justin's 37-21. Cole with the blowout 52-20. Keith's got a fairly close game too, 33-23.
That'd be a very close game, yeah.
And 38-17 for me, which is 14. Ole Miss scores a late touchdown to make it 38-17.
So again, you're talking about a spread of 15, and the over/under is 55.5. So you're talking about Vegas thinking this is a 42-13 game or whatever it is. I mean, they're thinking complete blowout. I mean,
15,
right?
35-20. 35-20.
Oh, 35-20.
35-20. There you go.
So 37-21, yeah. If
But
Ole
also,
Miss
15 points
scores,
in the road is pretty big.
huh?
Well, 15. Never mind. I was getting that wrong. I'm sorry.
No, it is huge. And if Ole Miss scores 52 points in this game, I have no idea where they're at with the Brian Harsin situation. I mean, at the Penn State game, I said that the bye week, if things go south, the bye week could be a week. I'm not sure. I'm not sure that's still the case. But you go get 50 put on you in Oxford and you lose by 30. I wouldn't put it past anybody to go screw it. Like, what do we have to do? We're not. He's not coaching another game. I mean, that wouldn't shock me at all.
I'm sure they'll be watching the effort level too. Does it start 3-3 again? The psyche of a team, does the effort level start to dip just even a little bit?
I think that's a big part of it too. Yeah, if they're still playing hard, then yeah, I think and they have so far, and I think they will. I think they will continue to play. Look, if we learned anything from Brandon Council, they think they're pretty good. Okay, like I think there's a lot of belief in there that even going back to the camp now you start to say they thought they were really good because they're going against each other.
Yes,
and there's maybe there's a little false sense of what they actually were accomplishing. But anything recruiting wise going on this weekend? A pretty slow, I guess, road weekend. Anything you want to hit on or no?
Well, Reuben Baines visiting Florida State. That's a big target that Jeffrey's been writing a lot of great. I mean, just crushing it on Intel. And Miami Central 4-star, 5-star type edge. He's going to FSU this weekend. He listed a top 6 yesterday of Auburn, Alabama, Miami, Florida State, Oklahoma, and FSU, I think.
Louisville? I think Louisville was in there.
Louisville was in there.
Oh, they were? Oh.
Oddly enough.
But anyway, so I think that we'll see what they say coming out of Tallahassee this weekend, because supposedly he's a guy that gives off a lot of good vibes to different people. So Now it's time to start figuring out. Auburn feels great about him, as Jeffrey's been writing, but how does FSU feel coming out of this week?
That's what we don't know.
If they feel great too, let's say, then we might start thinking, okay, has this guy just got everybody sort of fooled? We don't know yet. But Auburn does seem to be, we're all hearing the same thing, that Auburn is optimistic as hell right now. That's one to watch. Portal. Logan Brown entered the portal, the offensive tackle from Wisconsin last night, former 5-star. Has already got a bunch of Auburn guys following him on Twitter. And we were told that they're going to evaluate everybody, obviously, in the portal, but they're definitely taking a closer look at the Wisconsin transfer, Logan Brown. It's Logan Brown, correct?
Yeah.
Logan Brown, yeah.
Good. So they're after him. All right.
We don't know yet, but we'll see. They're definitely looking at him. But
Ruben Bain's an awesome name, by the way. Just that's a name. Just get. I'm for that kid because of Ruben Bain. I mean, he just sounds like a baller.
He's got 11 sacks in, I think, 4 games this year.
He is a baller. He's pretty good.
Nice. All right. Well, we'll end on that. We'll come back next week. Talk about. I guess we'll come back next week. We'll figure. I mean, it's a bye week, but I still think potentially probably a lot to talk about. So we'll keep it rolling. We'll come back next week on the bye week and just kind of have a mishmash of talking about whatever is. Auburn tries to get through one more game, and then maybe they can have a couple of weeks or at least a week to try to figure some things out. All right. Appreciate everybody joining us. AuburnLive.com. Make sure you're there today and tomorrow. A lot of exclusive content happening on Fridays, so make sure you're there. 50% off AuburnLive.com. Appreciate Jeffrey, Cole, and Keith for joining us. And see everybody next week. Later.